I quit my job and went all in on running my own business. If I didn't succeed, I would have been homeless. But if I was going to do it all over again, here's exactly how I'd get to the same place in pretty much the same time while keeping my job and security. Obviously, if you've seen any of my content before, I run a remote cleaning business, meaning I work whenever, wherever, and with whoever I want. But for you, if you want to balance a full-time position at work, you need to pick a model that actually works alongside that. Here's the problem with almost every side hustle people are going to jump into. To me, it fails one of three tests. Either it needs your full-time hours to make $1, so now you've got 2 jobs, or it needs a pile of cash up front, so you're risking money you really can't afford to lose, or it takes years before you actually see your first real payment, and you're probably going to quit way before that moment ever happens. I know that because I've lived it. Before any of this worked, I had many businesses that failed. I tried Amazon FBA, I tried trading, I tried to create an app, I tried crypto. All of those things ended up losing tons of money or were not profitable for months and months and months until you quit, or required me to actually be glued to my screen throughout the entire day. Because to me, none of those actually fit a person who has a job and can't really afford to be wrong or waste that much time. So when I'm mapping this out and I'm looking for an opportunity, I would say you have 3 criteria. Number 1, lower cost to entry, right? Not something that requires tens and tens of thousands of dollars to get started on a business. Number 2, something that I could cash flow relatively quickly. So I don't need to build the next great app with tons of equity value and using that cash flow for whatever else you want to do with your life. And then number 3, it can be run remotely. Does not require my physical presence, doesn't require me to go fly somewhere, especially if I have a job and I need to be somewhere or I need to be at home working or taking meetings and things like that. I can't be on the move like that. So I need a business that can fulfill that. So that's where remote cleaning fills all those bills. And this is where I want to be clear. We're only talking about remote service businesses here. You're the essential marketing middleman between customers and the person who's actually doing the service. Remote cleaning passes all 3 of these criteria because the startup capital isn't too much. You don't have to buy inventory, rent an office space. You can cash flow pretty much from month 1 as soon as you start marketing, and you can run it without you. So to me, this one clears all 3. And if you've been researching for months, right, we're halfway through 2026 and you can't pick something, my honest answer is you don't have a research problem anymore. You have a fear problem. Stop looking for the perfect model. Pick one that pays the fastest with the least cash at risk and go. You can learn everything else along the way, and you're going to build skills that are actually happening in your business along the way. That's what I see most people that do this really well do. They're not overthinking it. They understand that high level, it makes sense, and they get going on the business. Let's now say you've got this model. You want to pursue it. Now you're at that next stage of like, okay, how do I actually make this real? So validating your market can take 1 week, costs you nothing, and tells you whether or not you're about to start something profitably or not before you've spent a single dollar. Right? So validating a market just means proving 2 things before you spend. 1, real demand exists wherever you're trying to start. And number 2, the unit economics make sense so you can get your slice of the market immediately. So when I do this, I'm going to start on Google. I'm going to search the service plus my city, right? House cleaning near me. I'm going to look who's showing up on the map. I'm going to click the first few. I'm going to look at the reviews. I'm going to see how many they have. Does their website look like it was built past 2011? How many real players there are? Then I'm actually going to call them, start to get some real customer feedback. Fast to the answer. Did they even respond? Did they give me a quote? How did they treat me? How was their follow-up? Once I get all that data, then I've got the green light, right? I've got the demand validated. I've got competition validated. I know how their actual teams are being run. And now I have a gap in terms of how I want to approach my business in terms of the opportunity in the market. Now, something I see a lot of people make mistakes on is they're literally looking for as least competition as possible, right? So I don't want you looking at the map and saying, oh my gosh, there's only 3 cleaning companies in the area. That's actually a red flag that is disguised as a green flag because you think that because there's not that many cleaning companies, there's a lot of opportunity. But the reality is cleaning has been around for a long time. It's not that we're trying to innovate into a brand new market. We are trying to enter pre-existing demand with a better operational expertise to win in the market. So do not get caught up if you see that situation. That's probably actually a red flag, and you want to make sure you do extra due diligence if you're going to do something like that. So once you have the market all dialed in, right? Good to go there. Let's assume you have that all correct. Now you can actually get into going live, right? Getting set up for the business. Now, what I don't recommend is you telling everybody, hey, I got a cleaning company, hire me, right? You need to hire cleaners first, right? You can just imagine what happens when you do it the opposite way. If you tell everybody that you're in business, you don't have a cleaner, either you're going to clean, or you're not going to have someone too clean. You're just going to burn a reputation and relationship potentially on the first day. So let's avoid doing that altogether and decide to hire before you market. And finding your first contractor is basically a process. Number one, knowing where to look. So sourcing the cleaners in the right area. Number two, having an actual interview process that filters for what I'm looking for. Number three, running an onboarding sequence that gets them live in terms of ready to go for my company. And if you're going into the sourcing process, it does not have to be complicated, right? They are sitting in plain sight. Things like Indeed, Craigslist, Facebook groups, Nextdoor, they're all going to be there. A lot of them are looking for more work. That's where you're going to position your job description to actually entice that type of person. From there, you're just getting the applications, finding qualified people based on actual applicable experience, putting them through an interview process where you're actually going to be assessing whether or not they're going to be a good fit for your company. So you should have a regimented script that you go through. That way you can determine how they're going to show up for you at your job. A lot of times people are going to give you very surface level answers or the answers you want to hear. Okay. So if you're starting to get that, you need to tell yourself, I'm probably asking the wrong questions. Quick little note here on the biggest thing I see in terms of errors right now is like I work with a lot of clients. I see people get lazy in terms of keeping the velocity of their hiring pipeline up. They assume that they're going to get one great cleaner. They don't have to worry about hiring again, and they can just visit this in like 2-3 months down the line. That's not how this works, right? Things happen. Cars break down. Family events happen. Things that are unpredictable for you as the business owner. Therefore, I need to be ahead of that in terms of predictability, which means always be hiring. Okay, now we've got our first 1, 2, maybe even 3 cleaners and now getting onboarded on the team, ready to go. In this moment, pretty much simultaneously, you need to be ready to get your first client. It's time to collect our first dollars in the business and shift our focus to going live. Okay, so from here, we're really trying to execute on what are the available marketing channels so I can go live with this business and get my first sales calls within the next 48 hours. Now, a couple housekeeping things here. Your pricing should already be dialed. This should be done before, not right now. If you're trying to figure out your pricing right between the moment you hire a cleaner and you go live with your sales and marketing process, you've already lost. Market research is where you're finalizing all those details. That way, when you're transitioning, there's no questions here. So that's the first thing you're going to do. Second thing you're going to install into your mind and mindset is that speed is everything. Okay, speed to lead, especially in the sales process. It also is important in hiring, but even more so in the sales process is paramount, especially if you're going to be running paid advertising. Okay, if you're going to run paid advertising, which means I'm taking my dollars and putting them out to work into the marketplace, that means you want to be executing at the highest level possible for your sales process. Now, I'll just give you my firsthand experience. Literally, when I first started, there was only 2 things I did. I was either cold calling local realtors in the area, getting a couple quick wins that way. So that's one avenue where it just requires more of your time, not your dollars. And then I was also doing Google local service ads at the time, right? So I was spending money for that search traffic from that paid marketing channel to get sales right away. That was literally the only 2 things I initially started with. I've obviously layered things over time, but I would just say start simple, start with like 2 to 3 marketing channels. Make sure you do a 10 out of 10 execution on those. The last thing you should be doing right now, especially at this early stage of the business, is like, hey, I got to do 10 marketing channels to get this business off the ground. And then you end up dropping the ball across all of them. Okay. So that's one of the bigger things I would say I see a lot of people think they need to do, but you can just keep this as simple as possible, right? We need to keep things simple. I don't want you to overcomplicate things. Now, once you have those things live, you're going to get your first sales calls. You should have a script that you're going to be running through, right? Not only collects information, but presents value to the client. Now, a quick analogy in terms of like what I mean by presenting value is if you called a hotel, 2 hotels, and one person just gave you the price and one person gave you all the things that are included in the hotel fee, assuming the prices were the same, you would think that the person that you got all the information from has a ton more value than the other person for the same price. It's the same psychology here. So if you're explaining your services in that way, where they understand, okay, there's 100% satisfaction guarantee, what our hiring process looks like, this is what it looks like on the first day with us and what to expect from us. They're like, oh, okay, this company is running a real business. And if you're able to do that, you should be able to get your first booking. And to be honest with you, if you just solve for the speed to lead, you probably don't even need a great sales script. And just off being responsive, you can also get your first booking. So really what we're solving for right now is just getting your first sale, where this becomes a real business. It starts validating all the work that you did before, and now you're actually in the game. Now, I've worked personally with a lot of corporate professionals, probably in your exact position, and they've been able to launch successful side businesses, and some of them even went on to go fully replace their income in a matter of months. months. So if you want me to walk you through it, like I did with them, there's a link below. You can read about me and you can reach out to us if you think it'd be a good fit. Now, anyone can get a client, but how are you going to deliver to a high enough degree that your service isn't just tolerated, but is actually wanted? Your first client is not just a job, it's your first review, first potential referral, and first real proof that the model works end to end. So you need to treat it like the most important customer you ever had, because in a way it is to me. The whole difference between one-time clients and a client who books with you every week or every other week or monthly comes down to a simple communication process. Most importantly, it increases the probability that you're going to actually get the review, right? And it's not going to be some awkward ask, because it doesn't have to be. It's just another thing you're communicating with them on, right? After a job they're clearly happy with, you can just ask plainly. And that's the whole process. You don't have to overcomplicate it. Now, when the work is good and you ask at the right moment, you will get a lot of people to say yes. The mistake is doing a bunch of work or either never asking or asking too late when there's not the emotional height, right? The emotional height comes right when the service is delivered and the client is the happiest on their house when it's clean, right? You always want to be asking in that pocket. Otherwise, you're going to have less reviews coming through. Now, if you get that right, one client can turn into referrals or even monthly, every other week recurring revenue. So at that point, you did it. You've delivered your first cleaning. You probably got your first review. You're in business, right? So where are we going to go from here? How do we continue to stair step this process? Now, the next stage is really about building the system, because what traps people isn't a lack of demand. It's figuring out how to expand while having a job without spinning their wheels. So don't get me wrong. You can just service clients, make a decent side income. But if you want more, if you want this to actually reduce the amount of time that you're spending on this business and potentially replace your income, this is the stage that turns everything from a complicated business that's scaling to a simplified, streamlined process, right? So this stage is all about getting SOPs to work for you, getting your technology and backend automation set up, getting your reminder flow set up, getting your follow-up sequence set up, getting your CRM set up, right? All the systems and tech so clients can schedule without playing phone tag with you, or you're increasing revenue and recurring clients through things that you're running on the backend on autopilot. Because if you can get this right, this is where you start to get into just a few hours a week and it's working for you. Now, the systems that made the biggest difference for me was having a combination of backend automations, a CRM, and a booking tool that were all working together. That way, I'm basically like tracking every step of the client journey from the moment they touch my business all the way to them being 12 months into my company. That's where you have a company that starts to work for you with leverage. So again, that should feel like a night and day difference. To me, it is, right? So in month one, I'm literally doing everything, right? You're doing everything manually, right? You're making sure everything's working and you're doing it all yourself. Fast forward, you should feel like you have a machine doing 90% of the work. I'm handling escalated problems, same business, but it's running completely differently. And this is how you get leverage. And the moment that I felt like I finally had this system down was a day where there was basically no communication from my cleaners and my clients. Everything was being run on autopilot. I got great reviews and I actually got new business without me having to touch the phone, right? That should feel like, okay, cool. Like this is running now, right? Without me having to actually do extra steps. And to me, that's when it stops kind of being a hustle. And now you're starting to turn into a business because it's starting to make money without needing you actually in the room. Now, again, this might actually be enough for you, right? Like you might actually do this off to the side. It's leverage now. You have the systems all dialed in. You have your job. You like your job. But if you're like me and you don't like your corporate 9-to-5 and you truly want to replace your income, you need to continue to scale so you can have your own financial future in check. So let's put some real numbers behind it, because that's how I actually think. So if I needed to make 10K net profit, I need to get to the around 30K a month mark, right? So that has to be a continued journey of scaling, right? So there's a couple different things that need to happen here. You need to focus on now systems and hiring someone on your actual team to help you start to run the business, not you doing everything anymore, okay? For me personally, that was my financial optionality number at the time, right? I was thinking, okay, if I hit this number, I don't have to stay at my job if I don't want to. I have a business that's growing, and if I spend more time on it, it's probably gonna grow further, right? So that was kind of the simple logic there. So this part is really about working smarter, not harder, because when you bring someone in that's gonna start to do things for you, they need to be the ones taking things off your plate. So you're no longer gonna put linear time into the business now. Now is where you get exponential in terms of your leverage, okay? So you have to have good SOPs. You have to have good processes around everything that's going on in the business. You have to have a delegation system for how you're actually going to delegate the tasks and eventually how you're going to delegate decisions at your company, right? So that is a whole process in and of itself. If you don't have any of that stuff set up, that's where I see a lot of people get stuck in this business, is they don't have structure here, right? And really professionalizing the company in that way. So it is running on autopilot and there's no real what ifs going on at the company level. And that's where I see the biggest mistakes, to be honest with you, is like, hey, we're trying to scale really fast. I'm going to hire this person. I don't have an onboarding process. I don't even have a real hiring process in place for this person. And then I wonder, why is this person not doing well? And I actually think that they're just a bad person, when the reality is I had a bad system for actually onboarding and managing this talent. So you actually start to stall and go in circles and stagnate your growth because you actually think that you can't hire great talent, but it's actually, you don't have a good system to put them in. I'll use the example of college basketball, right? A lot of people will do college basketball and they say it's a good program, right? What does that actually mean? A good program. To me, that means they actually teach you a structure for how to be a professional, right? That's what a good program means, right? There's a philosophy behind it. There's values behind it. There's how you show up. There's training, there's support, there's management. Same thing goes for here. It's the same exact thing, right? You want to have a system where you can take anybody and turn them into a star at your company. That to me comes from how you design the experience. So it's actually kind of funny. At the 10K level, I actually think the business can be harder than the 40K level because you have less leverage. If you design things properly and you have people in place that can actually execute, the business gets easier as you keep scaling. So I would obviously encourage a lot of you guys, if you're in that level, to keep going because the business can get easier. You just need to get the new skill sets, the new structure, and the new entrepreneurial mindset towards delegation so you can start to actually run a real business. Now, if I'm in your shoes, you've probably built a business now that has clients, right? You've scaled it with systems now that's starting to run alongside you. So what would actually be keeping you from your 9 to 5? So this decision for most people is very emotional, right? It's hard to let go. I get it. I've been there. But to me, I would actually encourage you to look at it a little bit more mathematically and logically. So for the person that's sitting on the fence right now with this decision, have a plan. Stick to the plan and hold yourself accountable to that. For me, I had a number of financial optionality that I was saying, if I hit this, I'm giving myself the permission to leave because I earned it. Okay. I think that's a great mindset to have. And if you do that, I think you're going to have a great outcome with a lot of confidence, but it's all calculated and intentional. Now, I want to show you what this roadmap actually produces for someone who started probably exactly where you are. Zach worked in corporate sales. He had never ran a cleaning business before, but then he just started, and literally within 6 months, he grew his business to over $40,000 a month. To date, he's done over $1 million in sales. And to me, what separates the people who finish all those things we talked about, the stages we talked about today, it's typically just about taking the first step, taking action and not getting stuck in the first stage of research, right? Because the roadmap is the same for everyone. The difference is who actually is going to walk it. So if you want to be exactly like them, there's a link in the description to find out more. Now, my dad had spent 30 years in corporate America. He came from Iran with nothing. Working for someone else was the only path he could see during his time. Entrepreneurship wasn't popular. He didn't have a choice. I had a choice because of what he sacrificed, right? But I spent most of my 20s not taking it. So sometimes you need to just take a step back and realize life is only passing you by. So this video is the exact blueprint that I wish I had. The only question is what you will do with it. And obviously I will see you in the next video.